Thank you so much, sir, for joining. So, hi everyone. Today we have someone who is very, very special for all of us, especially for me. I remember I took a course in XLRI for human resource. So when I was talking to my colleagues and the seniors, so people were talking about, have you heard about Prabir Jha, sir? So after attending, sessions of Prabir Jha sir at various, occasions in the platforms, I was able to understand HR pretty well. Right. So very rarely this happens that we have leader like Prabir Jha sir. So I am honored to introduce on this platform Prabir Jha sir. I believe that this name doesn't require any introduction in India and the global level when it comes to human resource and the best practices of human resource. Sir, thank you so much for taking out time here for this platform. So it's really a great honor, sir. I remember, I attended your sessions 4 years back before COVID, sir, in Mumbai, and where we met and we had an interaction also. So a lot of learnings are from you, and you are the brand, especially for the human resource and the inspiration for many people, those who really wanted to establish their career in human resource. Sir, more than the human resource, your journey itself is very inspiring, sir. Very rarely we saw people, those who take such a, the dare decision in the life. So, sir, please share something about the inspiring journey as of now about you, sir.
Pankaj, thank you for your nice words. So very kind of you. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I'll start by making a caveat. I am an HR professional by accident. I had never thought that, I would be, working in the field of HR. Coming from Patna, and Bihar, if you're a bright young boy, then in a way the society has made its decision for you. So it was that you will write the UPSC, and coming from a family of civil servants, my father was himself in the IPS. It was very clear to me in the 7th, 8th standard that, I'm going to write the UPSC, right? And that's really what I did. So I finished my 10th. I opted to do humanities in my +2, not science. I had very good marks, but I opted to do humanities because I was told doing history at St. Stephen's College is the best way of preparing for the civil services. So I imagine a 7th, 8th standard person thinking like that I'm going to do arts. I'm then going to do history at St. Stephen's. So I topped India in my humanities in my year, and I chose not to do economics. Economics was my last preference when I applied to St. Stephen's. History was my first preference. So that's what I did for 5 years. And then I wrote the UPSC exam like I had always thought. So fresh out of college, I used to jump on and off DTC buses, sometimes with tickets, sometimes without tickets, right? Managing on 100 rupees a month. You overnight, become an officer, and the government of India is a great start whichever line, whichever job you get into. And the first decade I spent with the government as a bureaucrat, and my initial years were all with the Ministry of Defense, particularly the Indian ordnance factories, right, which now have been converted into many, many different kinds of defense public sector undertakings. But at that time, it was a department. And after my training at the National Police Academy in Hyderabad, some training at in Nagpur, I got posted in Pune. Very good colonial living, old British bungalows and lawns and gardens and everything that you had otherwise thought you wanted as a young 22, 23-year-old guy. This is what life was all about. And then I thought I want to study more, and I said, do what? PhD looked too arduous at that time. So I said MBA. And I would have been a great marketeer. I still think, and it's a pity of our education system. You do 3 more courses of HR, you become an HR guy. If I had done 3 more courses, I would have been a marketeer. The typecasting happens so stupidly. But since I was doing a lot of things in the government, which we now know as HR, I had 25 unions and federations I was managing, career management, progression, the entire works of HR. So I said, I'll do an MBA specializing in HR. And if I had to do an MBA in HR, it had to be XLRI, right? So knowing fully well I'll not clear the exam because I'd stopped studying after all these years, and government pampers you, it spoils you. And not everyone writes an exam after the UPSC, Once you've written your UPSC, you've written all your exams for life. So I wrote the exam, and as luck would have it, I cleared the written. So far, I have not failed a single interview in my life. Never, never. Even in the UPSC, I had possibly the highest all India marks. And so I went, 2 years was Vanvas. I went, did very well at XLRI, and my friends were batchmates were a SP collector of Jamshedpur, and they would say, SP has come, बुला रहे हैं आपको. I would say, bolo nashta kar raha hu. But 2 years, I forgot that I was a civil servant. It was back to shared toilets and, standing in a line to pick my khana. So those are the kind of things that I did. And when I came back, ironically, and on the way, I suffered a train dacoity. We won't get into details. I also suffered a train dacoity in Jharkhand. And when I came back, ironically, for a lousy HR handling of my reimbursement claims for topping XLRI, I left the civil service, which is a separate long story. And then I moved to the corporate sector out of philosophical disgust and emotional angst. And I then worked with Thermax, which was my first private sector stint, a couple of years there. Then I did 2 years at that time at Mahindra British Telecom, now called Tech Mahindra. I spent 2 years with them in IT. And then I spent 8 long years in Hyderabad with Dr. Reddy's as its global CHRO. I was all 36 when I became a global CHRO. And then I was what? I was about 43 when I moved to Bombay House in Bombay, Tata headquarters as the global CHRO of Tata Motors, Fortune 500 company. 4 years later, I went to work with Mr. Ambani as his group CHRO for all of Reliance. Some years there, and I thought I was 49 that I would start doing what I'm doing today. Create my own firm, possibly touch more people, impact more companies, help build more leaders than only the people in your company. And because I realized that there's nothing big to be done. It's the same thing. I can continue the next 12, 15 years. Life can be good. But as I was coming out, Cipla reached out and said that, no, why don't you give us some years? So I spent 3.5 years shaking Cipla out of its slumber. And 2019, 1st of April, getting to be 4 years in a few months, I started my firm and called the Prabir Jha People Advisory. And I'm at your service trying to help more people, more companies get better and better and enjoying the life of an entrepreneur. So that's been my Ram Kahani, so to speak.
Super, sir, so inspiring. Very rarely, and in fact, sir, this podcast will be very, very helpful for the people, those who wanted to start their entrepreneurial journey. I personally believe, sir, as far as my discussion with all the top leaders in the industry, somehow we all have this, this entrepreneur inside us, right? So very rarely, people are dare to take this plunge, what you have taken, and I think like you, so many people are also taking. So one thing is for sure, that taking decision, right, and then making that, sticking to that particular decision, and then making it prove that this is really possible. So I can see, sir, that from civil services to coming into XLRI kind of journey, and then starting career in human resource, and topping all the best corporate for the India and the global level. And this is what this podcast will be very, very helpful for all those people. Now, sir, I am talking something from the perspective of the psychology. What do you think that the people, those who are in this this dilemma, what should we I do, and what do you suggest that these people can take a right decision, right? So I see some people, they are reaching to their retirement, but they are not, they're talking to themselves and so many people, but they are not able to take this one jump, because maybe the financial commitments what they have, or maybe the psychological conditioning what they have, that today I have position, I am in the big corporate, I have good money, good salary, good package, all these other facilities are there. So please help us, sir, in guiding that particular thing, so that will be very helpful.
Very deep question you've asked, Pankaj. I can think of one very senior executive who's now retired, who worked, we were colleagues, and he would tell me many years ago, मैं तो consultant हो जाएगा, कुछ साल में consultant हो जाएगा. He finally lived his entire 10+ years that was left in the corporate life till he retired. See, to say is one thing, to do is very tough, and I don't know whether I would even advise people to do it. I'll be very honest, but I'll tell you, maybe all my life I have maintained that I've lived a life of convictions, not consequences. मैंने डर के नौकरी नहीं की कभी जिंदगी में, न सरकार में, न किसी भी बड़े कंपनी या चेयरमैन या सीईओ के साथ. I have lived a life on my terms, and people who worked with me would know that I've always said मैं अपना resignation pocket में लेके घूमता हूँ. So only when you are ready to go back and jump on and off DTC buses, or even when I was very, very senior person, I would all my life, I've made my beds. I have bought my aloo piyaz from the street vendor in Bhoiwada, which is a middle class market. I mean, for 13 years, I had my dog, grooming her, bathing her, everything I did. खाना भी बनाता हूँ, दही भी अच्छा जमाता हूँ, टॉयलेट साफ करता हूँ. So the fact is you have to lead a life of conviction, So many people see the glamour and glitter of a person, of a success, of any person. But behind that, you need a very strong character, willpower. And it is human, Pankaj, that if you are in successful positions, why will you give up? Because people run around you, people make you feel you're the most important person in the world, right? And there are many, many people that we know. I know, and the world knows. It is very difficult to give it all up. So बहुत कठिन decision है, and it needs deep conviction first. Second, because all of that goes. So the day I left the civil service, I chose not to think about the civil service. All my batchmates are now getting to be secretaries to the government of India. I can't think because it will make me feel bad. That was a choice I made. The day I decided to leave the corporate world with all its, and I was very fortunate. I had a great run. I don't want to look back because कि मैं भी private jet में जाता था, मैं भी 5 गाड़ी आगे पीछे. I mean, it's all Maya. It's not you. It's just that situation. So when you start as an entrepreneur, you start again from scratch. Every time you start from scratch. And that's what I've done every time in my life. When I went to study after 10 years, no one at that time, laterals were not fashionable on campus, right? You felt odd, you were studying with youngsters who were a generation younger in a way, right? And it needs a lot of willpower, lot of humility, lot of willingness to take it on your chin, so to speak. So my advice entrepreneurs and anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur is be very clear about, do you have it in you? Because it's a tough job. Nothing comes to you because you were so and so. I can tell you, I mean, I have produced 60 CHROs, except one, not one of them has given me work, not one. I don't prospect for work. I don't write to people. I don't go and call on people. Maybe I'm very passive on this. All my business has come from people I never knew. And this is the first myth of entrepreneurship that people must be familiar with. We assume that, oh, I know so many people know me. Now that I'm available, they will want me to help. It does not happen. And it is a very rude shock. I have lived it, so I know. It's a rude shock. And it can shake people up. There is no assured salary every month. Yes, in my case, at least my kids were done and I don't have debt, etc. All that because I was more prudent. My living style is quite middle class, right? So मेरी ज़रूरतें बहुत कम है, right? And so therefore I tell myself, even if nothing happens, by and large I'm done. Lekin when you want to be an entrepreneur is an important call, because if someone was even more entrepreneurial than me, he or she would bet more wildly, even if you have commitments and all that. But I think you should be prudent. Important thing is you should do something only if you are passionate about it, because we always read success stories. We never read of failures, and there are many more failures than successes. And there is no guarantee you will succeed. There is no guarantee you will fail. So it's a lonely path. So the ability to become thick-skinned is very important. People who would otherwise run around you all their lives suddenly disappear. Where are these guys? It's the same mind. I think just as well. But who calls you to speak? People who would grovel and say, sir, please come and speak for half an hour.
Yeah.
They disappear. So it's a lonely thing. Money is at risk. You may want to dip into your reserves. How much can you dip into your reserves? Finally, where will you want to position your offering? Like someone like me, my offering is at a very strategic level, very strategic advisory. I don't do any volume work. So I do little work, but I do very high value work. I also am clear I am not wanting to work 30 days in a month anymore, which I did 30 साल. कैसे सूर्यास्त हुआ मुझे मालूम नहीं है. But now I want to enjoy. In fact, I have my chai right here. I enjoy my tea as the sun sets. So the fact is, you must also be clear, depending on your life stage, depending on what is your motivation, and depending on how you want to live the life of tomorrow with its risks and opportunities, you should decide. Because if your value proposition is not clear to people, they won't come to you. And if you want to be an entrepreneur in the classical HR sense, oh, there are dime a dozen, right? So that is why at least someone like me, I can't do volume work, and I don't think I would have been great at doing volume work. So given my own background, my own strengths, I position myself as a very niche strategic advisor who works at the intersect of strategy and organization. But someone may pick a very niche thing because that's what he's happy with. Volume hiring or compliances or whatever else. But remember, it doesn't matter what you were. The day you start as an entrepreneur, you start from scratch. And that you should be very mentally and emotionally clear about, because reality hits you very hard, right? And that is why it is not an impossible thing. It is the only good thing for sure that I can guarantee is it is very difficult to go back to work for another boss when you have become your own boss. वो आजादी is a very different experience. So मैं आज मजाक करता हूँ that I wasted 50% of my life sitting through meetings. 50% of meetings which added no value to me, and 50% meetings where I added no value to the meeting. But because you're managing, you're sitting through. So today I do work which matters and only work which makes me happy. For me, whether you're an entrepreneur or any other person, for me, the two things which actually are very important, whether in life or in your career. Are you happy, and does it give you energy? If the answer is not clearly yes for both, you should think about everything. Zindagi mein ho ya apne career mein ho. Happiness and energy. If these two things don't matter, money is not actually the most important thing that should get you to be doing what I'm not here to because for money. You know, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not doing well, but it's not for money. And money may come, money may not come, but I enjoy my space. I enjoy my independence. I enjoy my freedom, because that is the kind of person I am. And those like you who know me know that I am not a guy who'll say, yes, sir, bataiye, sir, main kar dunga, sir. I'm not that kind of a guy. So this plays to my strengths, and I enjoy my time as an entrepreneur.
Super, sir. Thank you so much for very, very, genuine thoughts and very transformative thoughts. Sir, kindly share something about now coming to our actually topic of HR, which is, so much of things are happening now. You might have seen the entire transformation is happening into the space of HR, human resource. And this would be very helpful for all the current CHROs and maybe the aspiring, HR people there. How do you see the technology in HR, and how do you see the overall transformation which is happening in HR space?
So, this morning I was speaking to a set of CHROs of the banking financial services sector in the morning. And I was telling them, which I strongly feel applies to many other contexts as well. HR of tomorrow will work at the intersect of technology, talent, and culture. This is how I believe the role of HR is going to pan out. Doesn't matter whether you're a tire company or an insurance company or a foods company or an IT company or pharma company, that's how it's going to be. I believe HR is going to shrink as a function numerically, and it will become a strategic function. It will be a strategy influencing, strategy shaping function. HR, I believe, should also stop doing things and must get into influencing to get things done. It's a big shift from doing to getting things done. Because for a moment, Pankaj, think about it. Most of the HR experiences are delivered by the line manager, not by HR, the function. So HR, the function, is only a custodian of HR, the agenda, 90% of which is delivered by line managers. So HR's big job is to coach, prepare the organization, read line managers to be better people managers. And but unless you understand the three operating levers, what is technology going to do to your industry, to your business today, tomorrow, disruption? They are not going to be end of the tunnel kind of opportunities. They'll be wide angled opportunities, cross industries shift. So you have to read a lot. You've got to anticipate a lot. And therefore you must move from tactical thinking to strategic visualizing. I mean, if you really want to be an HR person of substance tomorrow, I mean, that will be my counsel. Your entire understanding of culture will have to be deep. Many people, even in HR, don't understand what culture is, and we don't have the time. But I write a lot and tweet a lot on culture, and the ability and willingness to understand, is your existing culture in line with the strategy that you are executing? If it is not, everything can be changed. Many a time people, including in HR, they say, Prabir, hamara culture kharab hai, culture acha hai. There is no good or bad culture. The question to ask is it strategically aligned? And therefore, how do you move the hard and the soft aspects of culture? So, yadi aap compliance and risk averse culture ke hain, and now you want to be an entrepreneurial culture, you must start celebrating failures. You must start celebrating, but normally what happens? Only successes are celebrated in companies. How will you ever be innovation centered a culture? Right, as an example. So culture will be a very important dimension that I think HR guys will have to visualize and shape. And the entire, and linked to that is your entire performance system, your organization design, because all of that, your reward mechanism, your performance systems, all of that will have to be rewired to reinforce the culture you need to be. And it's a very difficult job, but that I think is important. And finally, talent. I think talent is going to be disruptive. The definition of talent is a moving definition. What is talent today may not be talent tomorrow. Talent in one industry could also be talent for another industry. You may be hiring more cross industry. I've done it all my career, and now I read about it in the press, and many people are now hiring across industry. But मैं 20 साल से कर रहा हूँ, including bringing people in HR who are not HR people. Right? Every company I've done this, because it's all about how do you keep your perspective alive? How do you differentiate? How do you, whether you want to practice a capitalistic view of talent management or a socialistic view? These are big choices. If you say it's human capital, then you have to be also a capitalist, right? How do you manage your investments? So I think all of this is very important. And therefore, putting all of this together, one of the biggest issues for HR will be, how do you build the appropriate leadership in your companies? I mean, leadership which is fit for purpose for tomorrow. There are people who retire, become advisors, continue in the same job, senior people, senior HR people included. I don't personally support, with due respect, I don't support. You must know when to retire. Allow a new person to come in, new challenges to happen. And one of the things I always tell people is, don't try to solve a pediatric problem with a geriatric solution. Doing more of what you did in 1985 or 1995 is not going to give you a result. So HR people must be able to step back. There is wisdom, get the wisdom, but do what may not have been done so far. So HR must be able to visualize better, anticipate people risks more real time, be able and stop this copy paste of practice and policy that I see everyone doing. It is stupid. It is stupid. You don't even know whether it is going to work in your context, in your employee demographics. Does it really matter? So I think there are deep issues for HR if it wants to reinvent its thinking, and CHROs must be squarely held responsible. That are you playing for your own survival for years, or are you playing for your redundancy, but building a system, a process, a team, a culture which is beyond you? And I think we have a long way to go there, because I think that insecurity of HR leaders, I still feel is very palpable, and that will have to change in the new world.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. These ideas and these thoughts are really very helpful. And what I would say, sir, you are the one who thinks maybe the out of the box. Yeah, and maybe in the country like India, current CHROs, those who are practicing over there, they need to really take a stand. Now I see, sir, the moment the CEO calls, the moment the directors and the founder calls, their entire strategies goes in vain, and they say no, tomorrow onwards we will do this things.
And
So
I don't
now,
understand, Pankaj. I have worked 32 years now.
yeah,
Was I fortunate? And don't get me wrong. I don't think any CEO or promoter or founder told me ye tu panch cheez karo.
Hmm.
I decided what the company needs, and I will align with the promoter or the founder or chairman or CEO and with anyone else. But I will set the agenda. I really don't know. Was I just fortunate or was I different? But I think CHROs need to show a lot more spine. There's too much of defensiveness. There's too much of yes man ship at the top. Then it pervades down the entire hierarchy. And the younger HR people, I honestly think role models in HR, I think we could do with some more. I think we need more people who we can look up to. जो दबंग लोग थे, who challenged, who visualized, who positioned, not just who got their day to day and their bonus and they survived 20 years in one company. I'm not an admirer of such CHROs. You bat on different tracks. You take people on, shake up the system. लोग छोड़ने के बाद याद करते हैं आपने साहब कंपनी को हिला दिया, चेंज कर दिया. वो नहीं होगा तो फिर क्या मजा है फिर. मतलब जिंदगी is not about just earning a little more money and just keeping things going. And I believe you cannot be a great batsman unless you hit a century on Perth, at Lords, in Wankhede Stadium. If you have not, tab kya, you can play in India and say I'm a great player of spin. That's not great. Versatility is very important. Different industries, and HR has that opportunity. You can work in different contexts, founder, MNC, this industry, that industry, and excel. So I think there's a huge opportunity, and I know there are some very bright young HR people I meet. My challenge is, where are they getting their role models? That I think is a challenge, and I think we have all failed. I mean, maybe I've also failed somewhere. We should have all been better role models than what we have been.
Sir, looking into the business management colleges in India, right? So institute like the IIM, XLRI, and they give us the good leaders. But is still the if you see the mediocre kind of institute, they still struggle, and the what is the legacy they really wanted to teach to their students. Where do you see the huge gap is there, and what is that mechanism which will help these students to cope up with the change and the transformation which is happening? Now we are moving towards open AI. Chat GPT has disrupted everything. Now so many positions we are seeing on stake. Now we do not know whether this position will be there or not in the future. So please help us in giving some guidance to these youngsters and the aspiring students in the space of HR.
So my first caveat, even the premier institutes, they have produced some outstanding alumni, but it does not mean everyone from that institute is a great guy or a great leader, because human fragility is such that even if you go to an IIT, IIM, XLRI or wherever else, it does not mean you are a leader by default. But having said that, the selection criteria actually filters a lot of things in India. And that is a big plus of the Indian system. I am not one who says, only premier campuses are good. But what the campuses in India do is there is so much of young talent, it filters people out. So similarly, whether it's the UPSC or it's an CAT or, the IIT entrance, it filters people out. I think the larger issue is academia is not necessarily the most admired function anymore. Yeah. Not everyone chooses, and academics have their own. You come from industry, you're seen differently. You have just been an average guy who got nothing and did a PhD. I mean, not every PhD is worth substance. How many profs actually are teaching? I mean, their entire focus has become research karte raho, paper publish karte raho. How much of industry academia collaboration actually happens? How many profs come and do sabbaticals with companies? How many companies encourage that you come and spend 6 months? There are examples, but very few. The other thing that I think is very important is, why should everyone go to a premier or to a higher education thing? I've written a lot about this over the years. I think in India, the obsession with higher education qualification is misplaced. You know, they'll say, मैंने तो PhD किया, but अब constable की नौकरी कर रहा हूँ. Honestly, how many PhDs are of substance? How many MBAs are of substance? So if faculty is poor, infrastructure is poor. Infrastructure is not about real estate development. There are many colleges which have done real estate development of their facility, but true quality education, true quality education with ethics. The good part of going to Excel was we were taught business ethics as a separate paper, right? And it was a Jesuit education. So leadership is not just about getting your left-brained numbers right. You know, that's the easier part. Leadership is also about getting the right brain, the values, the sense of humanness. And I think a lot of it is a reflection of society. जब तक समाज नहीं सुधरेगा, तब तक आप academic institutions या B-tier institutes को नहीं केवल blame कर सकते हो. And finally, and most importantly, at the end of the day, any educational institute is just an initial passport. It doesn't guarantee you 30 years of success, none, including Harvard, right? So a lot depends on people from these institutes. How do they evolve? How do they behave? What kind of reputation and brands do they build around them? It also rubs off on their colleges. But more importantly, that is leadership which the world will experience. So I don't think I will blame everything on second tier this thing. Yes, there is a dearth of quality teachers and faculty and stuff like that. But I think most of the leadership is made post colleges, not in colleges.
Yeah. Wonderful, sir. Sir, coming to the last, couple of questions, what would you like to suggest to these young CEOs and the CHROs? Two things are there. Now, in India, if we see the best practices of HR, taking new initiatives, innovation, and understanding the right mission, vision, and the value of the organizations, it is only on the board or really in the behavior and what people really demonstrate there. So what would you like to expect from these young CHROs and the CEOs so that they can take right decision? This is question number one. Question number two, this is really very rarely happens that you come on such a platform and share about this, and I would request everyone, those who are listening and learning from this, take the advantage of building that kind of the collaboration with the people, those who really understand human resource, actually the human resource, right? So please help us, sir, in with the first question first, sir. Yeah.
So, for me, I think the biggest thing is dream big. You must dream big. छोटा सोचेंगे तो you will cross that pole, but you will have under leveraged yourself. Don't shortchange yourself. Even if you don't get to where you dreamt, you would have dreamt or reached far beyond what otherwise you would have got. So dream big, and there is no sin in dreaming big. Dreaming big. Dreaming big will mean dream disruptive. Dream beyond incrementalism. Dream something which commonsensically we don't think is doable, because I think there is a huge opportunity for that. So dream big. Second is dream beyond yourself. How will you actually tell the story is very important. I've written an article which you should see in the press in the next few weeks. The best CEOs, the best HR heads, the best leaders are great storytellers. You cannot be a leader if people don't buy into your story. वो कहानी आप कैसे सुनाते हो? It's not about your Excel sheet. It's not about your PPT. It's not about your numbers. It's not about 20 slide presentation. When people meet you or see you, do they feel, I trust this guy? Banda is making it. Actually, I want to be part of this journey. You must be a great storyteller, and it's low because trust is disrupted today. Empathy is at a discount. We have become extremely selfish about our own survival, right? And therefore, the sense of taking people along, people don't get. मैं बहुत तेज हूँ, I can manage everything. doesn't work. And unfortunately, our education system has done nothing to develop some of these softer things of knowing how to inspire, influence, and take people along. It is a non-negotiable. Howsoever good you are, you cannot get to the place you want all alone. So that's the second suggestion I would leave with them. And the third, which is most important, is be extremely vulnerable. Many people don't understand it as completely as I would like them to understand. Vulnerability is not being weak. Vulnerability is saying, I don't know. I'm not great at this. I need your help. I'm willing to learn. The opportunities of today and tomorrow will need you to be agile and nimble. You can never know everything. But are you vulnerable enough? Are you willing enough? Are you going to learn from someone maybe 3 levels lower? मुझे लोग पूछते हैं आपका रोल मॉडल कौन है, विच कैरेक्टर? आई हैव नो वन रोल मॉडल. मैं तो अपने ड्राइवर से भी सीखता हूँ, मैं जिस सब्जी वाले से खरीदता हूँ टमाटर प्याज उससे भी सीखता हूँ. I mean, what entrepreneurial skill, the smile, the power of a smile. I learn and I write because I observe, I write. So these are 3 things that I think are very, very important leadership things for anyone in the new age who's aspiring to be in the next 20, 30 years, because that's the way the world will be. And the world will be bunny, it will be brittle, there will be anxiety, there will be inconsistent trends, it will be incomprehensible at times, non-linear, all of that will happen. So these 3 things, you have to still dream big through all that. You still have to kind of, learn how to take people along. So the power of storytelling is important. How does your narrative go? And third is you must be extremely and willing to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is going to be a strength in at least, I mean, I don't know how long I'll be on this planet, but जो भी अगले 30-40 साल जो भी आएंगे, I think that is what I would suggest them to be.
Yeah, sir, this podcast will be very, very helpful for all the upcoming youngsters, those who will be watching this. And there are a few more things, sir. I read somewhere when you are at the top, that's the bottom for the next. When you are at the top, that's the bottom for the next. And 2 more points. One, what you said, that where is that empathy, where is a trust, where is a care for the people, where emotional intelligence plays a very, very vital role. What Daniel Goleman has mentioned in his book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, which is saying that IQ is, not that much important. EQ is the most important thing, which will help, leader to become successful. And vulnerability is what you said is very rarely you see, sir, the leaders are there in the industry, those who are ready to say, so I'm so sorry, this was my mistake. So pardon me, I'll correct it. I'm ready to learn from you. Thank you so much. This is what, I will learn from you. So thank you so much for sharing, all these thoughts, sir. It will be very, very helpful. Anything else, sir, now out of these questions, which is there in your mind, which you would like to convey to all the people in our audiences?
So I have only one closing comment. Through all the criticism that will come through to you, through all the blips you will have in your life and career, life will never always be a smooth line. There will be people who will be jealous of your success. There will be people who will bitch about you. There will be people who will let you down. There will be times you'll wonder, क्यों हुआ मेरे साथ? Why did people behave like this? All that will happen. सबकी जिंदगी में होगा. Through all of that, my one counsel is trust yourself when no one else trusts you, because it is the only thing which will allow you to keep following that journey towards your true north. People will have opinions, people will have views, but let's be honest, who cares? If you trust yourself to get to where you are playing, one day the world will sit up and applaud, but many a time हमारी जो वो resolve होती है वो टूट जाती है. So trust yourself when no one else is willing to trust you. That will be my parting shot and suggestion to anyone who's listening to this conversation between you, Pankaj, and me.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful conversation with you. Would like to see you in person very soon. If you are coming to Bangalore, please let me know, sir. You are most welcome. And whenever I will be visiting Mumbai, yeah.
On social media, I kind of connect with many people every day, so we will continue to be connected. But if I am in Bangalore, I'll give you a shout next time. You have a good year ahead and all the very best. God bless you. And thank you for inviting me to this conversation.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, sir.